Okay, I mean, I just love when I hear a student come back in and say, "Hey, I watched Lost last night, and this character's name reminded me of this character here, and he's really good." And then all of a sudden, I mean, I know they're just connecting to pieces of fiction, and that might not change their life, but that's an ACT standard. That's an ACT standard right there to infer something about a character and be able to compare it to another character, to infer a theme from one novel and then compare it to another novel or another piece of fiction. That's an ACT standard. Okay, so that's something that they don't need to be sitting down a multiple choice test necessarily to demonstrate. They can do that otherwise. Um, and it's up to us to look around and make sure. No, like St. Louis has this incredible botanical garden, and we were talking about tinctures in class and how like the belief in ancient Greece that like different and I think this carried on through Shakespeare's time, but like different levels of bile, for instance, would determine whether someone was acting, happily or was depressed or something like that. And they had these weird kind of pseudoscientific remedies, and so these kids designed this activity where they were going to go to the botanical garden in St. Louis and bring their phone and then take pictures of. They actually went to one of the workers, all the people that work there are botanists and know all this stuff about flowers and stuff. And so they said, we need these medicinal properties, and can you help us find these? Take pictures with themselves and the plant, and then said, like they understand that this would have been something that might have like created maybe a more mellow Oedipus or something like that that wouldn't have caused the problems that happened there. And that's fine, just stop there. Then they get into discussions about, COVID-19 and like all of the snake oil that's going around about that. There's an article I just read in the London Review of Books that just listed all of the things that people have suggested might work for COVID-19. It is no different than ancient Greece or Shakespearean time where they made this sort of garbage pseudoscience snake oil stuff. I mean, we sell emu oil today. It's not snake oil, it's emu oil, and it does nothing. Okay, so like they can make the connection now and all of a sudden say, yeah, maybe injecting bleach isn't a good idea for COVID-19. That was suggested. You could inject bleach into your body, and that would help. One of them was drinking vodka. It doesn't work. Okay, these are things that are crazy, and you can see that now because of this whole activity. And also they got off the computer. They went to this other place. I know that there are going to be restrictions. I'm just saying you have to look at things that are around. Okay. Lastly, I've been asked to make sure that there's kind of a couple of suggestions for specifically K through 6 or K through 8. And luckily, where my kids go to school had a pretty comprehensive, at least application set for that. I think it was used in some ways to good effect, in other ways not. But one of my favorites was Epic, and I'll let you guys explore this a little bit more. But Epic Reading is like a great thing. So each of the kids gets a. Let's see if it's on my computer. Parents, students. I don't have the class code. They get a class code, and then there are all these books in their level, in their reading level. Okay, and it's like a online book. And these are some books that I know of, but some of them are created just for the site. So it's on their reading level, and then they read the book, and it actually keeps track of how long they were on each page, and it keeps track of whether they sort of listened to the person read it all the way out or whether they highlighted the words as they went through it. And then at the end, it gives them a quiz that they take. And if they read the book, meaning like they were on the page for long enough and pass the quiz, it'll let them move on. It gives them points, and they get little points they can spend on different prizes and stuff within the program, of course. Little pictures and crowns and whatnot. Um, but I like my daughter's 6, so she would try to skip through it and just skip to the end and then like try to do the quiz and then just keep doing the quiz till it was over. And one time, I'm not making this up, like she skipped to the end of the quiz. It was an activity that she knew about. I mean, it was a content area that she knew about, and so she took the quiz, got it all correct, and then um, and then the program told her that she hadn't read the book. You didn't spend enough time on each page. There's no way you read this, and it didn't give her the prize. Okay, so Epic's a really good one. I really stand behind Epic. I thought it was great. My son's ELA teacher um, used Book Creator, which was really neat. So instead of just doing journaling and like take a picture of your journal and then send me a picture of your journal, the Book Creator that he was like making covers of a book, and then they could go through. He's in second grade, so they were doing the parts of a story. Like you have to sort of lay out the characters and the setting before you get into a conflict, and then a resolution. And so they were doing like start like they didn't really get into like super complex stuff, but three different parts of the book or whatever. And then the teacher, she had different stipulations for what kind of pictures needed to be, like the pictures needed to sort of match the mood and all that. And he just had a great time assembling this book over the course of his ELA. I mean, he I think he made one over the whole quarantine, but they were kind of adding to it each day. She would add a new part, and then she could sort of formatively assess it before they moved on to the next thing. And by the end, he had created this whole story about kid that grew up playing basketball and ran into this issue and overcame it and ended up in the NBA and whatever. It was like a 40-page book that he made. Um, that was really, really neat. And she was kind of giving him feedback the whole way through, and it had a cover and pictures, and they had to write, the back of the book. Everything was there. So Book Creator, awesome. For younger kids too, this was really successful with my daughter who was just in kindergarten. But Seesaw, um, we can't really get into all that Seesaw does because it's very comprehensive, but it was really a great way for us to show her teachers what she had done. And I thought her teachers in particular did a really good job with giving the kids a project, explaining the directions a little bit, but didn't define it too much. And then asked kids to find certain answers, and they would do the project and then kind of like put it up here on Seesaw, either a video of it, a picture. There's also ways to put worksheets on to Seesaw that kids could fill out with their parents and then send it right back, without having to like actually give them a packet. And you might not want to do that anyway because you're not touching stuff that you don't want to give back. So then my daughter's kindergarten teacher is just like this genius, would get on there and he could give her feedback like, oh, hey, Claire, I really liked what you did here. And it was like a video of him saying this. And there are all sorts of different aspect. Like she could make a video, she could do a worksheet, she could take a picture, and the teacher was just sort of like watching everything as she posted this stuff. And it was a great way to give a packet without necessarily giving a packet of worksheets, but it was like a packet of activities that she kind of did. And then when she would go onto the Zoom meeting, they could reference what was going on Seesaw. Seesaw is another great tool, if you are in that boat. Okay, so it's been almost an hour. I am going to stop now. However, again, take a little bit of what is in this video, steal whatever you need. I mean, steal whatever you need, but just I mean, to start with philosophy and end with philosophy, really just think about what it is that we're trying to get our kids to do, versus like, are we like what grades we're giving? What are the point totals for everything? Okay, I'll use a sports analogy on the way out just because I think it works. I use the bike analogy in the beginning. So I used to coach basketball, and like there was one season when I thought we were pretty good and I liked what was going on in practice, and then we would get into the game and just get absolutely squashed. We get absolutely demolished in the game. And teams were usually really good. And one year, I think we were like 18-2. We had 15-5, like all these great years. And then by the end of this one year, we were like 2-18. And I realized at that point that my issue was I was using the objective grade of W and L to determine whether we were doing well. I was using wins and losses the same way that as teachers we use points. We use point totals and we use alphanumeric grades. Okay. What I should have been doing with that group of kids and some of the challenges with that group of kids was not to compare them to the group that came before them or the group that came after them, but to compare them to themselves and as a group together, but also as individuals, and to recognize where improvement was happening, and to tell them right then and there that win or loss didn't matter. Okay, the process was what I was worried about, and the product didn't necessarily matter. Um, as long as the process was improving, as long as uh, there were aspects of their play that they were improving based on feedback from myself and other coaches, then whether they won or lost, it didn't really matter. And I could give them sort of mentally an A or positive feedback all the time, and that we weren't concerned with wins and losses as much as we were concerned with following this exact process and improving that. Okay, so take that to the classroom, and we're really looking at like, is that objective grade at the end so overwhelming, that there can be no gains unless they get an A? Or if there are gains happening, is that an A? Right? Like, do we need to take the W and the L out of class to begin with? I have so many kids, all they want is like, I'll do whatever it takes to get an A. Tell me what I need to know, quote unquote, know to get an A. And they really struggle when I'm like, well, you need to be able to do this. And when you do this, you're actually going to get like a D the first time, but then you have to do it again and again and again until you get the A. Like riding a bike. And then like everybody can get an A. If you get an A, you just have to keep with it. But that is like more of a, I'm judging the improvement. Okay, so these are things that I think maybe online we actually have better access to, because we don't just kind of have that wink and the nod with the kid that looks like he's paying attention, or um, the guy that is really, he doesn't talk very much in class, like he doesn't talk out of turn, and he's really polite and good. Um, that's great. I mean, where does that fit into his education? Is he demonstrating these concepts? Is he creating and appropriating skills? Okay, so keep that in mind as you go through. Please feel free to contact me or any of the AVLI staff if you have any further questions, and I would be happy to dig deeper into any of this stuff if need be. Thanks a lot.